Well, the Republican National Committee has launched a new line of attack against the president now, saying his re-election campaign is using the same tactics he railed against when he was candidate Obama back in 2008. The RNC releasing this brand new ad calling the president's message a hypocritical slap in the face. Here's a sample.
If you're willing to work even harder in this election, I promise you change will come.
President Obama's campaign staff is already planning how to go negative on the Republican candidate.
It's fear this time. 2012, it's fear of the alternative.
The Obama campaign said they wanted to, quote, kill Mitt Romney, that you were going to trash him.
Because if you don't have any fresh ideas, then you use stale tactics to scare voters.
This Republican path to poverty passes like a tornado through America's nursing homes.
If you don't have a record to run on, then you paint your opponent as someone people should run from. Disguised as deficit reduction plans, it is really an attempt to impose a radical vision on our country. You make a big election about small things. They must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society.
Joining me now, Leslie Marshall, a syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor, and Lars Larson, also a syndicated radio host. Panel, welcome. All right, so that's the question. Is there are a couple of theories here that the RNC is trying to point out what it genuinely believes is hypocrisy. And then there is another theory that they are trying to shut down these lines of attack on their presumptive nominee, Mitt Romney. Lars, do you believe one or both of those, and will they be effective?
Well, they may be trying to shut down the lines of attack, but Romney knows he's going to get a hard time from the president. The fact is that is it an attack, as you said it is, when they're merely pointing out what the president said 4 years ago and what he's saying now? It seems to me to be a legitimate commentary on the way the president behaved when he was trying to become president and the way he's now trying to behave when he's trying to stay president, and he doesn't have much to brag about.
Leslie, do you see some hypocrisy in the president's message when he was a candidate versus the way he appears to be running right now?
No, actually not at all. I think, quite frankly, the Republicans are doing exactly what they're accusing the president of. When the president was running and he had a campaign of hope and change, that was in 2008. We had a different economy. We had a different nation. We had a different world. Now he's running for re-election. And quite frankly, I'm one Democrat who said, hey, get tougher. Fight back, Mr. President. So I don't know. Maybe he was listening to some of us in the Democratic Party who helped to elect him. I don't think it's hypocritical. I think it's a new election and a new man.
Lars, obviously you disagree. Obviously you disagree.
Well, Megyn, here's the thing. Leslie says it was a different world. Maybe Leslie remembers 2008 differently than I do, but the economic collapse that began in the summer and then hit a crescendo in September, that was a different world. I mean, what was everything wine and roses back in November of 2008? I remember it differently, Leslie, than apparently you do.
You know, the thing is, though, the question is, Leslie, whether, because remember when he was running back in 2008, it was definitely more of an uplifting message. We've heard this from some Democrats that said that they feel a little disappointed in how they thought he was going to change the tone in Washington, and instead maybe Washington changed him, as it does to so many politicians. And if he goes negative, if he does, as the campaign memo was leaked, try to kill Romney, politically, the message and so on, does it change how people feel about him? Does it, take the wind out of the sails?
Well, there are some people who want the president, the candidate of 2008. But I think that most Americans, left or right, are realists. And they realize that I don't think this president is being negative. This president is being passionate and adamant about points that have been made by those who are trying to take his job from him. And he's pointing out to the American people, and he's angry about some of these attacks, and rightly so. And I don't think is it attacking back, or is it righting the wrong? Is it pointing out facts over something you think is fictitious? And I think that's what the president's doing.
Lars, it doesn't seem like many Democrats are going to care if the president goes negative on Mitt Romney, or, assuming he becomes the nominee. But what about the independents?
Well, I think the independents are going to do what an awful lot of Americans are going to do. They're going to evaluate the president on what he promised and what he delivered. And when people like Leslie say they're trying to take Obama's job away from him, he doesn't own that job. every president has to earn that second term. Well, the president made a promise. He said, you vote for me and change will come. Well, change came, but it didn't fix America's problems as the president promised that he would hold unemployment down, that he would bring back a vigorous economy. And the solutions that the president offered up then and that he implemented in the last 3.5 years have not worked. And the president can't get past that. So now when people try to take his job away from him, he is failing to prove that he deserves another term. And that's a problem. So I guess all he can do is say, that guy will be worse if you vote for Mitt Romney.
Well,
now, I don't think that's a winning strategy. I'm better than the alternative? I don't think so.
Well,
America's had 3.5 years of this guy.
Leslie, there are now reports that the president is running, or has his campaign has run focus groups on Mitt Romney's treatment of his dog. On the amount of effort and money that they have spent looking into Mitt Romney's past, and this is not unusual in presidential politics. Let's not fool ourselves. Mm-hmm. But how is that going to sound coming from a man who, when he ran back in 2008, wrote, "What you won't hear," or said, "What you won't hear from this party is the kind of politics that uses politics." Is a kind of politics that sees our opponents not as competitors to challenge, but as enemies to demonize.
Well, I don't hear any demonization of Mitt Romney by the president between now and November. That might happen. I mean, I'm going to be a realist, like I said. I think looking into, how he treats his dog, etc., there are a lot of people left and right upset about that little ride on the roof, to be quite honest, but I don't see any ads talking about that. So I think
not
what
from
he's
the re-election
doing
campaign.
is what... Right. I think what he's doing is what any president would do who is running for re-election, which is to know your opponent or your enemy.
Panel, thank you both.
Now, Megyn.
Gotta go, Lars. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
You pick it up next week. Thank you both.